The following program is a PodcastOne.com production.
From Hollywood, California, by way of the Broken Skull Ranch, this is the Steve Austin Show.
Give me a hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Now, here's Steve Austin.
All right, everybody. I'm talking to my good friend, Brian Knobs. Brian, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me, Steve. It's good to be talking to you.
Hey, man, I was sitting there, to my listeners out there, I was sitting there doing a sound check with Brian. As you guys know, I'm at the Broken Skull Ranch. I'm in the middle of nowhere, and I record these conversations on Skype. And so me and Brian were getting some levels and seeing how his quality of sound was, and I asked him what kind of phone he had, and you said you had a Galaxy notebook.
Yes, it's a Galaxy notebook, and I don't know how to really use it.
But you said you liked it because it's so big you can see it?
Yeah, I can see it. You know, I mean, it has a big screen, so I can actually, I'm getting older these days. I can actually see the things. I don't have to squint to look at what I'm, reading.
Well, why don't you go down to the doctor and get you some fucking glasses?
Because I just figured, heck, I don't look good with glasses, so I don't want to go that far yet. I'm pushing that off. That'll come in another 10 years.
Boy, I don't think glasses are going to really set your look off too much. On the other side of that, you've been married for 20 damn years, so what difference does it make?
Hey, you're right. You know what I might do, though? I might go down to the nearest Walgreens and get them readers. I heard they work pretty good, and now they got these kind that you can have, like, little lights on the side, so, they help you, read. And also, they give you a light.
Hey, dude, I'm wearing a pair of the Walgreens readers right now. I wear the 1.0s, the little metal horn frame things that are pretty damn strong. I look like a piece of shit in them, but I can see like a hawk.
Well, my wife, Tony, she's got them, and she's probably going to be, wring my neck for telling people. But, yeah, she has them on, and sometimes at night she has them on. And I'm like, what the heck? I think there's a burglar in the house or something. You look on the dark side of the house and you see these two little white lights coming at you. Like, what the heck is going on here?
Tony has the kind of glasses with the little lights on them?
Yeah, she has the thing that has a little thing on the side, and that's why I said I got to get a pair of them. Hey,
man, let me ask you, man, you and I have been in the pro wrestling business for a long time. How long was your active career, Brian?
Well, put it this way, I'm still, like anyone would say, I'm still going out there and doing it. I don't do it as much anymore, so I'm kind of like semi-retired. But 27 years I've been doing it. Okay. I mean, it's really taking a toll on the body, I'll tell you that.
I know, I want to get to that. But the question I want to ask you is, I know your wife, Tony, pretty well. Every time we get a chance to get together, whether you guys are in L.A. and we hook up with myself and Kristen or just around. But I've known you for a long time. I've known Tony for a long time. How long have you guys been married?
20 years in January 21st, but we've been together, living together and everything for right now 23 years, and this coming January it'll be 24.
So there's my question right there. I've been divorced 3 times. I'm on my 4th marriage. I went down in flames several times. How did you, out of all the bullshit that you and Jerry Sags got into as the Nasty Boys, and you're one of the rowdiest cats in the history of the pro wrestling business. Anyway, we'll cover some of that down the road, but how did you keep this marriage together? This is a miracle.
You got to look at it, man. Nothing comes easy, and grass is not greener on the other side. But I luckily found a good woman that sticks behind us in thick and thin, and not out for herself, and actually there for me to help me out along the way. Because I'm pretty sure if she hasn't been, wasn't around with me for all these years, who knows where I'd be right now. It's kind of crazy, but she's been my backbone, like everybody says. Behind every good man, there's a good lady. Well, just like you have a good lady right now, and it took you a little time to find it, I actually found her right away, so that was good on my part because I'm still here and I'm still going strong. What can I say?
Well, hey, man, that's answering the question. I know that you and Jerry Sags are from Whitehall Township, Pennsylvania, around those parts. Where is Tony from?
Tony's from Nashville, Hendersonville, actually. And, she was when she was brought up as a little kid, the parents had a barbecue shop right there, and all the famous country stars used to come in. And believe it or not, I can't. One time I got drunk and I was really getting on her, but when she was a kid, Roy Orbison actually babysitted her. She used to go in with little Roy, he actually passed away in the fire they had back in the day. But Roy Orbison and Johnny Cash used to babysit there. They used to go on sleepovers and stuff at their houses, and it's pretty cool to say that, and I didn't believe her, I thought she was BSing me. And then I took my parents, we went to Nashville with Tony, and we went to see Johnny Cash and June Carter when they were still living. And Bill were standing in line to get their autograph and, introduce it to my parents. And Johnny looks up and says, "How you doing, Tony? How's your parents doing? How is this doing?" And we got it all on tape because she had the video camera going, but she had it on her side so we wouldn't look like marks, you know what I mean? So, but it's all on camera, and June's asking how her sister's doing and this and that, and it was pretty cool. So after it was all over, I went, well, she wasn't BSing me. It was actually a shoot. You know what I mean?
Hey, let's talk about some ribs here in a second, because you guys were known for your drinking, as I was, but you guys were really known for your roughhouse tactics, your ribs, the life of a party, and sometimes the assholes of the party at the same time. I always got along great with you guys. When did you and I first met? Was it in WCW, or was it on the road somewhere when we were with different companies? Do you remember when you and I first met?
The first time, Steve, I think it was WCW. I'm pretty sure that was the first time, and you were with Pillman at the time.
Yeah.
And you guys were running strong, and we came in and we got along. We just hit it off right from the start.
We did.
You know the deal. When you meet somebody and you just have that feeling and you hit it off from the start, you know that guy's going to be friends with you for life, through thick and thin, and have your back and all that stuff. And that's the way me and you hit it off, right like that, Oh,
I know. We did hit it off. But, hey, let's go back to you guys growing up down there in Pennsylvania.
We were from Whitehall, PA, actually, and that is, the Lehigh Valley. Allentown, Pennsylvania is I always refer to it like Allentown because Billy Joel wrote a song about it. So it was, we're living here in Allentown and they're closing all the factories down. So I'm going to become a pro wrestler and show everybody in Allentown what I can do. No, but
so when did you fall in love with the business? When did you start watching pro wrestling? And I'm guessing because of your location, you were getting WWF.
It was WWF back in the day.
Yeah.
Steve, it goes all the way back to the early 70s when Pedro Morales went against Bruno Sammartino at Chase Stadium. I mean, we used to it was all WWF, and we didn't get no others. We didn't get the NWA, we didn't get AWA, and, that was one of the major, companies back in the day. And I guess Vince Sr. ran it, but man, they had Pampero Football, they had S.P. Jones, Superstar Billy Graham, Bob Backlund. I mean, the list goes on and on. And I used to do TV at Hamburg, and we went and watched, TV. We'd go see TV tapings at the time with Captain Lou Albano, Professor Tanaka, and
but
Mr. Fuji.
When you say we, you're talking about you and Jerry Saggs, right? Your partner.
Well, Saggs would go on a couple of them. My brother would go. Me and my brother were big fans, but Saggs would hop along on a couple of the trips. But I was really I was insane about it. You know what I mean? And Saggs liked it, but he wasn't as crazy as I was for it at that time. I was going to everything. I would like every time they would come, I was going to go to a TV taping. And then I guess something happened in Philly, and when they were taping in Philly, I guess the building burned or whatever. Then they moved it to Allentown. Then they were doing the tapings in Allentown, and that's when Zbyszko hit Sammartino over the head, and Sammartino was laying in his pool of blood there, and that happened right there. And then so did the Jimmy Snuka, Roddy Piper, coconut thing happen there too.
That was in Allentown. That was one of the best angles of all time.
Yeah, that was either in Allentown or in Hamburg, but I think it was in Allentown, you know.
Okay, so you
My
got
memory gets a little foggy these days there, Steve.
yeah, but okay, so you're bit by the wrestling bug, so you decide that you want to get trained. How did you end up over there getting trained by Vern Gagne and Brad Ringens?
Well, first of all, me and Trevor were getting in a lot of trouble. You know, he got thrown out of college, and I kind of got, you know, a very polite way asked to leave. I was in the Army, and we both ended up back in, you know, Whitehall, PA, and we were getting in fights every weekend, you know, and our good friend was Matt Millen, and at the time, you know, Penn State, and then he went played for, you know, a great NFL career, but he was playing for the Oakland Raiders at the time. But he was good friends with me and Sag. He was a couple of years older, and he sat us down and he said, "Hey man, you guys are gonna wind up in jail. You guys need to do something with yourselves." Like, gave us a little pep talk there, and then he said, "Hey, why don't you try it now? You always loved that wrestling. Sags, you always loved that wrestling. Why don't you, you know, try pro wrestling?" And we both looked at each other and, "Hey, that's not a bad idea." So then we went, and you know how it is. You know, I know now, and you know now, but we were marks at the time. We were bugging George the Animal Steel. They used to stay right there at the George Washington Motor Lodge, right down, you know, from our houses, about maybe 10 minutes away. So we would bug them after the match. We'd drive around, and we'd look and see, you know, where are they? Oh, there's George the Animal. You know, and we were trying to talk to them. And, you know how it is when they're finished wrestling, they want to have a couple beers and just chill.
They want to be left alone. They don't want to be hounded by a bunch of marks.
Yeah, exactly. We were stalking them like a bunch of marks. And then finally, George Steele called me up and said, you know, we finally got touch base, and I told him we wanted to be wrestlers. Well, he got so pissed off at us, he had Bob Orton Jr., Jimmy Snuka, and I forget which other wrestler there at the Quality Inn. They were staying at the Quality and called us up to come down, and here they were going to stretch us. They were going to, you know, really beat the hell out of us there, right there at the hotel. And thank God, I was working and Sag was working. And I said, "I'm sorry, Mr. Steele, but, you know, we are not going to be able to make it." So he said, "Well, if you're really serious about doing this pro wrestling, there's only one school to go to. That's Vern Gagne's school up in Minnesota. They'll teach you right," which he was saying in his mind, "You're going to go, I'm sending you up to get tortured," because that's what kind of school it was. You know, you're getting up and we started with 22 damn students, and me and Sag were the only ones to survive. And the only reason that was is because we lived on the bottom of Brad Reagan. Brad Reagan's trained, you know, the Olympic champion. He was our coach, and we lived in his house, so we were on the bottom of his house. So our car broke down, so there was no way. We were kind of stuck. It's like we couldn't get out of there. It was like, you're here, and you're getting tortured. I'm telling you. I mean, you know, because he had Olympic champions come in there like Jeff Blatnick. God bless his soul. He's not here no more. But you know, he came in and stretched, and we got stretched by everybody. You know what I mean? But the craziest part about it was, hey, let's face it, he's an Olympic champion. When we came to the camp, there was no wrestling ring. It was Olympic mats. I'm going, we were on them Olympic mats for 3 months, Steve, and we got tortured. I mean, we got tortured. And Brad was actually, we were real wrestling, and we were getting hammered, and we were going every day, almost, I think it was 4 or 5 hours a day. I mean, it was like an Olympic training camp because that's what Brad was used to.
Yeah. And
then when you couldn't even lift your arm, then Vern Gagne would come from the office, all dressed up in his tie and take his tie off and get down there on the mat with us and put us in these shooter holes till we screamed. You know, oh, you know, and by the time Brad worked us over, our grandmothers could have beat us. You know, I mean, let's face it. But that was the way they did things back then. You know, I guess it was almost like they tortured you to try to get you out of there. They didn't want you passing the school.
I've got to ask you this: with all the amateur greats working out with Brad Ringen, getting stretched by Olympic level athletes, and then here comes Vern with his background, with all this scientific amateur training. I don't remember you guys employing any of those tactics as your tag team, the Nasty Boys. You guys, don't get me wrong, you get your high spots in, but you guys were brawlers, lots of punching and kicking. What happened to the scientific amateur stuff?
Because we went back to our old ways of barroom fighting.
There you go.
That's what got us into the business anyway. We were getting in trouble back in PA, and Matt Millen said, you guys are going to wind up in jail. Why don't you try to pro wrestling? So when we finally learned the business and take bumps and hit the ropes, we went back to what we knew best, you know, punching and kicking and barroom fighting.
Well, so then where was your first run? Was it AWA?
AWA was our first, territory, but you know, back in the day how things went. We went through, we went through the school. It lasted about 4 months, almost 4.5, 5 months. We were the last guys to survive, and then after that, we got hired by Vern, but it was hired by Vern to drive the ring truck and referee. We did that for 6 to 8 months.
Oh,
and then
man.
one day, you know, on the Ringo was just too early. So Kurt Hennig and I forget it, Jimmy Snuka and Colonel De Beers and all the main eventers would always come in late, you know, because they were used to coming in late. And Kurt told the story. God bless his soul. He's not here no more either. He was our mentor. But he's driving up and he goes, hey, that looks like the ring truck. And all of a sudden he looked over at us and he goes, what the hell? It's the ring truck. And we weren't even at the show yet. And the main eventers were coming in late, so the ring wasn't even put up. So that happened. And then the next thing that happened is there was a mix-up, but we got blamed for it. The ring never showed up to the town. So after that, that's when they finally threw us in the ring. We got axed from that job because the next day, Vern Gagne called us in the office and goes, never, since I own this company for 40 years, has the ring never shown up to the town where it was supposed to be. And me and Cy were sitting there going, what's his name was supposed to bring the ring this time? Not us. He goes, bullshit, you guys were down to bring the ring and you didn't bring the ring. We were sitting at home and we get this call and it was the ring didn't show up to the town. So
straight up shoot, was it your fault or was it the other guy's fault?
It was the other guy's fault, but he blamed us, of course. He was around for a while.
So then you guys get in the ring. Do y'all automatically come up with, okay, we're going to call ourselves the Nasty Boys? Was that the first name? How did y'all get to that?
No. Our first name, believe it or not, we had this thing because I was in the Army, we were going to call ourselves the Mercenaries, right?
It kind of got a good ring to it. Sounds better than Ringmaster.
Oh, yeah. But we had this baby, you know. Okay, the Mercenaries, we're going to go with that. And then we went out with Vern Gagne's daughter, Donna, and she went out with us one night, and we were out to 2, 3 in the morning. And the next day when we came in the office, she called us in, and she goes, I want to talk to you guys about something. And she goes, the way you acted last night, you know, you acted like a bunch of rowdy, nasty boys. She goes, you guys should think about maybe calling yourself the Nasty Boys. And me and Sag looked at each other and went, hey, that is a good name. And that's how we got our name, from her going out with us one night. And me and Sag back in the day, as crazy as we were, you know, doing our thing. And then the next day she said, I don't know why you want to call yourselves the Mercenaries. You guys should call yourself the Nasty Boys. And me and Sag went, hey, that's a good name. So we went with it.
So you're there in AWA, and then so how long does that last? Because then I probably met you guys down in WCW in, 91, 92?
I think in 90 we met. In 90? 90. I think we met in 90, and we were we started the school in 85, started AWA in 86, then we got fired. You know, I didn't tell that story. We got fired because we almost burned down a motel in North Dakota, but then again, I just got to say, God bless his soul, Kurt Hennig was like the big guy and to stir everything up, and then we always got blamed for everything. And the Rockers were there too. Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty.
Hey, well, you guys were having great matches with the Rockers back in, right? Because I mean,
oh yeah,
they were
awesome.
Those guys were on fire, and so you guys had to having.
Well, you know, back in the day, me, Sag, and Shawn all lived together, and in this one room that Brad had downstairs in his house, and they had 3 beds. There was one twin bed and one big king-size bed, and believe it or not, nothing went on funky, but me and Shawn slept in the same bed because everything was broke at the time, and we were all in the one room together for about 6 months. It was me, Sag, and Shawn Michaels all living together.
Well, how did you guys get along back in the day? Because, you know, Shawn kind of went through his phase where, you know, he went through his issues, and he was a kind of a different cat there for quite some time. But how was he back in the day as a rookie, you know, paying his dues and learning the chops?
Oh, bro, he was great. We were best of friends. You know, I don't talk to him too much no more. I'd like to get in touch with him, but we just haven't touched base. You know, things go after, you know, time goes by. But we were the best of friends, and you know, I still consider him a real good friend of mine. Just haven't talked to him in years. But he had a thing. You know, I was trying to always be that smart alecky kind of, you know, cocky kind of guy. Well, he was that. So there was a little thing that went on that some of the old timers didn't like that. Wahoo McDaniels, you know, there was Ray Crippler Stevens was there, and, you know, a lot of the old timers, you know, like were saying, who do these young guys think they are? And because we were pulling ribs and, you know, doing all this crazy stuff. And, you know, there's a couple times where we had his back, but there's a couple times when some of the vets wanted to, you know, rip his head off, you know, because he was right from the start. He always had that talent, though he could work, and so could Marty. And you know, I don't know if they were jealous or whatever, but they thought we weren't showing the respect, but we were. And you know, a couple times there it got kind of crazy where, you know, we almost went toe to toe with, you know, like the old vets against the young guns, you know.
Well, what kind of ribs were you guys pulling at an early age? And to my listeners all across the world, I know a large part of my wrestling audience will know what the ribs are. Ribs, to my people that don't necessarily know wrestling, are practical jokes that guys play on one another just to alleviate pressure or for a few laughs, or maybe because you don't really like someone, but they're a big part of the pro wrestling scene. So what kind of ribs, if you guys are pretty ballsy to be pulling ribs on veterans that have years of experience, what the hell were you guys doing?
Kurt, the thing with it was up there at the Western Hole, it was called, up in Grand Forks, North Dakota, and Wahoo and Kurt kind of had a little thing going on, and at the time Wahoo was the booker, and him and Ray Stevens were staying in a room together, so he had us bang on their door real loud. This was an outside hotel, you know, you could just drive up to the room.
Yeah, like a
so we banged on the door, boom, 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 boom. And then when they opened it, we were sitting in the back of Kurt's truck with Sag had one and I had one with one of these 50 Roman candles each, so 100 shots each. And when they opened the door, bing, bang, boom, boom, they were getting blasted by these fireballs, these, you know, red, yellow, blue were coming shooting in. And then the next day, Kurt Henning's tires were slashed. I guess, you know, Wahoo went and flattened 3 of his tires with a knife. And then the one star that Wahoo brought in, his name was Mitch Snow, and he was the pretty boy. Well, he drank too much and fell asleep, and then he woke up with no eyebrows.
No,
that was one of the.
It's funny. It's funny how anytime you guys are around somebody and someone goes to sleep or passes out, more correctly, y'all had a nasty tendency to shave off said eyebrows. What was it with the eyebrows that you guys love so much?
Dude, I don't know. That was something that Kurt Hennig, you know, I don't know who actually invented that damn rib, but, you know, I lost my eyebrows a couple of times, and you know what? It wouldn't cut both of them off. You would only shave one of them off.
So you look
like a moron when you're going through the airport, you know? And, you know,
it takes a while for them to come back.
Oh, hey, I want to tell you, I only got Kurt once, and it was great because he didn't know it until he got to the airport. And when he went to check in his flight, because we were in the Tennessee territory at the time, in the Mid-South. This was in 87.
Yeah.
And we finally got him. He didn't know it. And we rushed him to the airport. And then when he got off, and he gave his ticket on, that's when the lady was looking at him weird, and he touched his thing and went, "You son of a bitch, you got me." You know what I mean? So this is what he did to us. For me and Chad had a one-bedroom. And in this one-bedroom in Tennessee, we had the Rockers staying with us. We had Scott Hall at one time staying with us. Everybody staying with us in this one little shitty, crappy one-bedroom apartment. So about Kurt leaves and about a month goes by, and me and Sager at each other's throat. Sager's going, "Wash your fucking stuff. You know, it smells like shit in here." And I'm going, "It's not me, it's your stuff."
You're right?
Yeah, we were almost going to fisticuffs. Finally, we go and clean the whole room out. And right in between, we both had twin beds. But in between, we had the nightstand. We pull out the drawer, and we're cleaning out the drawer. In the very back, there's a Dove soap container. And Chad goes, "What's this?" And when we pulled it out, that damn Henning took a dump and put it in that Dove container, that Dove soap container, and put it in the back of our night table stand there in the drawer, and it was like a shit deodorizer, and it stank up the whole room, and had me and Chad almost at fisticuffs going, "Your stuff stinks. No, your stuff stinks." And here, Kurt rigged us and put a real live poop deodorizer in our room, you know?
And that's the thing about, Kurt was a tremendous worker and one of the nicest guys. I mean, he introduced me to a lot of people when I first came to WWF, but he was always so good about helping guys, taking them under his wing, mentoring a lot of guys. But to people who didn't get a chance to really see or know too much of Kurt Hennig, God rest his soul, he was one of the biggest ribbers in the history of the business. And Kurt was one of those guys. And I didn't know Kurt real well, but I knew him well enough. He just had that personality where you could be mad at him for like 15 minutes. And then, you just had to forgive him because he was such a cool guy. And, he was just mischievous and he always had that smile on his face. I don't think as many times as I crossed paths with Kurt Hennig that I ever saw that guy in a bad mood or without a smile on his face.
No, and you're right. He was always in good spirits, Brian, and he was one of our mentors when we first started in the business. And I'm telling you, man, it was to learn from him, and not only wrestling wise, and learn the psychology and all that, but the ribs. Oh my word! You always had to watch your back. I mean, it was a big thing back in the day when they would always put these padlocks. They would get them from the small high schools we were wrestling at and everything. And then they would put them on your bag or lock your bag up to the top of the rafters, and you would have to go try to get a superintendent there or a janitor with a bolt cutter if they had one to cut your bag down. If not, you were stuck in a town the whole night.
Either that or they put all the combination locks on your belt loops of your jeans.
Yes.
And, then you walk around with a bunch of combination locks.
Oh,
it was total bullshit.
And God bless his soul, Hawk from the Road Warriors came in and went, "Nobody ribs the Road Warriors." And then when they came out that night, they had a padlock on their brand new Lincoln on all of the door handles. Yeah. So when they went down the road, it was going all the locks were rattling, and they mixed up their brand new pound car they bought. And that was definitely a Kurt Hennig one, And another one was, if anybody remembers Nails, well, Nails just bought this brand new truck, and somebody ripped off the hood on him, and it was a Dodge Ram. He used to have them big Rams.
I got one of those. Yeah.
well, after that, he was driving with Kurt, and Kurt had him convinced it was Sheik Abdel Casey. And Sheik Abdel Casey's, I don't know how old he was then. And the next day we're at the TV up there in Minnesota, and Sheik Abdel Casey comes in, and he has his coffee, and he's laughing, going, "Hey, Kevin Nails, Kevin Kelly thought it was him that did it because the Kurt stirred it up. And he went running over to him and just beat the living hell out of him right there at the interview room. And then Greg Gagne jumped in and says, Kevin, stop it. We have expensive TV equipment around here. He wasn't worried about Sheik Adnan getting his ass kicked. He was worried about some of the TV equipment getting busted. So now after that happened, Greg goes off, has everybody sitting around and saying, this shit's gonna stop. If any of this happens again, you're fired. One of you guys out there, blah, 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 blah. After he gets through with his whole speech, Kurt goes, you fucking nasty boys. You're too much. Like we did it. And then all of a sudden, oh my God. And he threw all the blame on us. And Gagne actually believed him, but it wasn't us. It was that damn Henning doing all of it,
Hey man, as you were coming into the World Wrestling Federation now, who were some of your favorite tag teams to work with? Who did you guys have great chemistry with? When you guys are working a program that you really enjoyed lacing up the boots and working with.
Well, I got to say the Hart Foundation was great.
Oh, those guys are badass.
The Rockers, we already wrestled them, in Mid-South and in AWA. So they were always, pleasure. They were great to work with because we knew them. They were friends of ours. And when you wrestle a friend, if you spun them a little bit, they don't care.
Right.
So you always had good chemistry with them guys. Let's face it, we the British Bulldogs. Oh, unbelievable. We wrestled them over in Japan. And,
hey, stop right there.
Road Warriors.
Stop. Hey, but let's stop. Let's talk about the British Bulldogs for a second, because this was back in, so Dynamite Kid was still in the ring, correct?
Yes. Oh, they were still going strong. This was 88.
Tell me about that, because, man, that's one guy that I've always wanted to meet during my career, and I never did, but I thought so much of his work, when I saw him starting out in Calgary, the stuff that at a young age that he was doing with Bret the Hitman Hart, and then, of course, when him and Davey Boy hooked up, I just thought they were one of the most awesome tag teams ever. How was that guy in the ring? Because he was a notorious ribber himself and also a tough guy.
An unbelievable talent, Steve. You wouldn't, and you learned so much from him. That, because he was over, when we first met him, me and Sagler in 1988 went over for the, Giant Baba, his tag tournament. And they were one of the tag teams on the tournament, but, we were there with, Abdullah Butcher, Tiger Jet Singh, Stan Hansen and Tenru, Terry Gordy, and, what's his name? He was one of the long runners, Irwin, and, the tag teams they had on there, and me and Sag, and we were just young at the time. We were getting rid by Dynamite every day. We would sit, on the bus in front of him, and he would use me and Sag's head as ashtray. After we were smoking, we put the ashes on our head. Then when we get off, we go, what the hell's this on top of our head here? Is, using us as ashtrays. But, dude, you learned so much back in the day from them guys. It was unbelievable. And then Davey Boy, wrestling in that match, where, we wrestled him twice or three times over there. He put you in that, suplex, but he holds you up in the air so long. Dude, he had me up there for over a minute or so. I was ready to pass out. I'm like, when the hell is he going to drop me? I couldn't breathe anymore. And finally, he went down with me, and I was like, oh, thank God. Because when he had me up like that, and I'm a big guy myself, I cut off my circulation. I couldn't breathe.
Hey, how snug was Dynamite in the ring? Because you guys were known for being snug, and it looked good on TV, but it probably felt a little bit brutal. But so how was Dynamite as far as being on the receiving end of y'all's offense? Yeah, you knew. He laid it in. He definitely laid it in, but it was nothing that you got injured on. It was something like, hey, this is pro wrestling, kid. So take it. You know what I mean? So. And that's what we did. It was solid. He worked solid, but he never hurt us, Almost like the Steiners. When we first got into WCW, nobody wanted to wrestle the Steiners. Like, they were hurting people and throwing them around. They threw them to us, and they said, hey, you guys are going to wrestle the Steiners. We said, great. We loved the way Robbie and Scotty wrestled because it was kind of our style, too. And we had the greatest matches with them guys.
because we didn't care. And you know what? Me or Sag can knock on wood, we never got hurt once wrestling guys. And they would throw us every which way but loose. And you know what? Even if you didn't want to go, you were going, because they were actual wrestlers from Michigan, so they knew what the hell they were doing. So there was every suplex in the world, me and Sag were getting tossed around like a bunch of beanbags.
You also think about, when I go back to think about Rick Steiner, because I remember first coming across Rick Steiner watching Mid-South and Power Pro. And back then, I mean, he was super jacked. You know, he had that lower center of gravity, his shoulders as wide as a barn door, great genetics, shoot wrestler. And that dude was just tough. And then, on the other end of that, then you had Scott, the gigantic Jacks. And with all of the maneuverability, the athleticism that guy had with the Frankensteiner, those guys were just unbelievable athletes. And I was always, I always got along great with the Steiners too. And I wrestled both of them on some singles occasions and had really great matches with them. But they were fun to work with, but they were some physical specimens. They wanted to toss you around. You was going to start flying.
Steve, if they wanted to do anything, they were doing it. And, you just had to be prepared, because there was no stopping any suplex they wanted to do. They would get you in that hole, and you go with it. And even if you didn't want to go with it, you were going with it. You know what I mean? So, but I must say, I don't know, you never got hurt wrestling them, right?
Oh, no, I loved working with them.
Well, the thing was, when we first came to WCW in 90, nobody really wanted to work with them because they were, tossing guys around, and I guess a couple people got hurt. And they threw us in there, and we had to go. That was the match that got us to the WWF, that match, the Halloween Havoc match. They went out and they said, you guys are wrestling the Steiners for the, United States Tag Team Championships, and they built an angle up, and we kind of laid them out on the signing, when we were signing the actual supposedly contract in the middle of the ring, and we were the first ones actually to lay them out, so it got us good heat. And then, bro, we had the greatest match at Halloween Havoc. We went 24 minutes with them guys. Sag got juiced open, and almost like you got juiced open that time wrestling Brett. It was the same thing, the hard way, over the top of the head with a chair, and Sag was bleeding, and we just kept on going, and we went all over the place. I mean, we were getting thrown off the top rope with these suplexes. We were back and forth doing, crazy-ass stuff that wasn't even seen back then. And, after that match, about 2 days later, Hulk Hogan called me, because I knew Hulkster at the time, and he says, hey, Vince McMahon wants to talk to you. And Vince gave us a call and offered us a job up in the WWF after that Halloween Havoc match in 1990.
The Steve Austin Show. The Steve Austin Show.
Paying out of your own pocket for gear you need to do your job is a problem. All kinds of departments across the nation, police, fire, EMS, medical workers on the front lines, and even military units, they all deal with constrained budgets and outdated gear. But there's still a job to do, and you need the gear to do it. Hunting for military, first responder discounts has historically required going from one website to another, and all kinds of hassle. Don't you wish there was one place you could visit that had a carefully crafted selection of deals for military first responders in one spot? GovX works directly with brands to negotiate the best prices possible because you deserve the gear you need at the prices you've earned. Plus, you can trust that the gear you're ordering is 100% authentic, direct from the manufacturer. If you must pay out of your own pocket, you shouldn't have to pay a premium to get the gear you need to effectively perform your duties and complete your mission. GovX has a huge collection of gear and apparel from popular brands, all in one convenient location. It's like a grown man's toy store in here. Just wait until you see our knife collection. All you need to do is sign up for free. No subscription fees. No re-upping your membership every year. Once you're approved, you're a fully fledged GovX member for life. GovX honors your service and gives back to your communities. We don't just thank you for your service, we honor it. So if you're an American of service, a current or former member of the military, firefighting, frontline medical, or law enforcement communities, or the emergency medical, join GovX for free and enjoy a community that honors and gives back to patriots like you. If you've got a military or first responder background, visit govx.com and sign up for free for instant access to tons of deals and a community that honors your service. Visit govx.com and receive $15 off first orders over $50 or more when you use code STEVE. That's $15 off first orders over $50 or more when you use code STEVE at govx.com.
All right, everybody, I'm talking to my good friend Brian Knobs. So when you go up to the WWF, I mean, for me, the way I've always explained it, and I think this is the way it is, WWF, you want WWE, whatever you want to call it, that's the major leagues. And WCW was kind of, training grounds. It was minor leagues.
Yeah.
And so you guys going to WWF, y'all roll in there, and how were you received? And is that when the final look came together with the graffiti style stuff? And
right.
Vince was down with bringing you guys in and put a rocket on your back?
Yeah, you know what? They did that, and we didn't even know they were doing what they were, going to do. We just thought we were coming in there to work, and they had us already, he didn't tell us, we already had us figured in. We got in there in November of 90. We actually started at the same time Undertaker started. And
Really?
Undertaker was in that, Undertaker came in the same time we did. And, he was in that Survivor Series in 1990, but we weren't. And then in 91, the Royal Rumble, they put me in, and they didn't put Sags in that one. And here I looked on the list, and Jimmy Hart was, our manager at the time. So it ended up to be the last three that was going to be in the ring were me, Earthquake, and Hogan. And I was going, really? Are you kidding me? And, so it ended up, bro, that was, there we were at the end of the Royal Rumble in Miami in 91. And, Paul said, how do you want to go out? And I said, well, give me the big boot, and I'll go out backwards over the ropes. And he looked at me, and I weighed about 290 at the time. He goes, you sure you can do that, brother? And I said, I promise you, Hulk, I won't let you down. And dude, he gave me that big boot. I was so amped up. I didn't even touch the back of the rope. I was flying, man. I was like, because at the time, Hulkamania was running wild, and the last three in the ring, me, Earthquake, and he had like a little angle going with Earthquake, and Hulk. I mean, and then to hear the fans. I mean, I was so energized up. But the funny thing was, when they finally called my number, I think I was number 17 to get out there. I ran out there and went and, Piper even, he's on the announcing going, boy, look at this young Nazi boy, he's hitting everybody. I went in and started hitting everybody. And, with stiff shots, of course, and doesn't Kurt Hennig. I finally come up to him. I go to swing at him. He backs up 2 steps. I fall flat in my face. And every guy in the Royal Rumble jumps on top of me and starts whooping my ass. I mean, if you ever get that Royal Rumble, watch it.
For a shoot?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
For a shoot?
They were just giving it back to me. Stiff shots, but they were whooping. They were bang, 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 bang. Like, who do you think you are, young kid, coming in here gonna do this and that? So it was almost like receipts. You know what I mean?
Hey, but you know what? And here's a little bit of advice for any of these new cats that go into a Royal Rumble. When you go in there, don't go in there and try to do a bunch of whiplash, bing, bang, boom bullshit. Go in there and start kicking motherfuckers' ass, just like Knobs did. Bang, forearms, just make your rounds. You got to make your presence felt. You got to have an explosion. So many cats go out there in their first Royal Rumble and they want to tee off with a guy and try to send him into the ropes while there's 15 other guys in there and do a bunch of stupid shit. You get over by doing the stuff that you did, or for me, stomping people or just making rounds with big right hands. That's how you make an impact. But you said, I want to backtrack a little bit. You said when you went in, you were figured in. And let me explain that to some of my listeners that don't know the professional scene too much. Figured in means when you come in, okay, let's talk about when I went in as a ringmaster, I wasn't figured in. I was just going to be, kind of a mechanic. So when you're figured in, they have plans for you. They're going to utilize you in a correct fashion. They have plans to push you. So you guys were figured in. They had plans to make you guys a top tag team. So now that we have that talked about, let's talk a little bit about The Undertaker. When he was making his debut on the same timeline as you guys, I remember, Mark, back in the days in USWA, wrestling in the Sportatorium in Dallas, Texas, when he was the Punisher, and I had a match with him, and he tried to take care of me, and I stunk the joint out. But when he and I knew him, I watched him as Mean Mark Callis in WCW. Right. He always had that mean, tough guy look. There was money written all over him. You just didn't see it yet, or they didn't. And so, man, all of a sudden he goes to WWF, and he comes out as The Undertaker. And when I first saw him debut, I was entranced. I thought it was the greatest fucking gimmick I'd ever seen in my life. And he played it to a T. And you would see little kids on the front row, Brian, scared. I mean, really fucking scared. That's how good this guy was. Nobody in the world could have pulled that gimmick off like Mark did as The Undertaker. No. So what did you guys think as this guy started sawing his way through the competition?
Well, he was always good. He was a friend of ours. So we got, because we all came in there together, but, we were there for his first match. I mean, I don't know how many wins he has now. Is he on 20? But his first match was against Jimmy Snuka at WrestleMania 7. Right. And our first big deal was WrestleMania 7. We wrestled the Hart Foundation and won the WWF Tag Team titles. And that was the biggest, like I said, everybody asked, well, what was the greatest match you guys ever think you had? And I said, well, there was the match against the Hart Foundation, because that's the one that stamped us as you're legitimate. You're in the WWF now. You just won the, tag belts at WrestleMania 7. And now we're up to, number 30. So I feel like an old NFL player when they, back in the day, they go Super Bowl 1 and Super Bowl 2 and, Super Bowl, we were at, number 7, 8, and 9. And, there is no other venue that is like WrestleMania. It is the Super Bowl in our sport, and to be involved in any of them is an honor, let alone winning the WWF Tag Team titles, at a WrestleMania.
What did winning the WWF Tag Team titles mean to you guys on a shoot level?
Oh, on a shoot level, it was amazing, because for that time, since we started, every time I would call my dad, that's all he would ever say to me. You're not in the WWF yet, kid. You're not in the WWF. And we were from, AWA, which was on ESPN. We were down in, Georgia. Then we were in WCW. And he would always mention we're not in the, WWF yet. So, when we finally got there, and then they gave us that push, and we didn't even know we were getting the push. And I'll tell you, it pissed a lot of people off, because there were a lot of different tag teams at the time. Not the Rockers, of course, because they were friends of ours, but there was Power and Glory, Roman and Hercules, and the Road Warriors. They had been there already a year and still didn't see the belts. And you know how, that could be, because, Joe and Mike were the Road Warriors, and let's face it, I know they wanted the strap, so here we come in, and boom, we come in November, and in March, or end of March, we're the tag team champs. And then we went into the gym after we won the belts. Everybody's working out with the belts on, eating ice cream cones. And that had to get some heat, because some of the older guys thought, why are they giving the belts to them two effing idiots? You know what I mean? So it was what it was, but it definitely was the greatest time ever, one of the monuments that I'll never, in my career and in my life, it was one of the best times ever. I mean, it was out in L.A. yet. Colin McLaughlin, the Home Alone kid, was there. Henry Winkler. I mean, all the stars. And it was supposed to be at the L.A. Coliseum, but then because the war broke out, they switched it from the Coliseum to the sports arena, And it was still amazing. It was the most, amazing deal that happened in my wrestling career was, WrestleMania 7. That was the bomb, man.
Hey, man, what was it like? You said it a while ago, Hulkamania was running wild. Shoot, I was down in WCW or wherever I was at. What was it like being in the middle of Hulkamania there with the Hulkster himself?
Dude, it was unbelievable. And I would watch his matches, and what really amazed me, and it still did, because it happened when he wrestled The Rock, but this would happen all the time, was after his match was over, he'd spend that 10 or 15 minutes posing down, and nobody would leave the building. You know, usually after the last match is over nowadays, everybody's bolting for the doors. But in his deal, when he was main event, you know, the people were so enthused, and, you know, the Hulkamaniacs were going crazy that after he would win the match, they would stay around to have him do that, you know, his posing down and with the ears thing and pointing this way, that way. And he'd be out there for 10 or 15 more minutes. And the people never left. And it was unbelievable. And I would watch that night after night going, damn. You know, that's what you call over. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it was really amazing to see at the time. It really was.
You guys were selling out everywhere you were going, right?
Selling out everywhere we were going, and that's where they were running 2 times a night.
Yep.
You know, the A town and the B town. And the B town, I think, was, if I'm not mistaken, was Warrior against Taker, and they were doing okay, but you always wanted to be on Hulk's show because you know it was going to be sold out, and you knew you were going to pull in a lot more bread. You know, so you were always hoping to be on the A show, not the B show. You know?
The B towns are usually a little bit smaller venues. You know, that card wasn't as stacked as the main event card. So yeah,
right.
The money was always be on the A card. Let's talk a little bit about tag team wrestling. I love tag team wrestling, but I figure a tag team has to be together for several years to gel and to have the chemistry and the psychology and for one guy to go out there and be able to read the other guy's mind and see the direction a match is going. And you just mentioned some great tag teams a while ago. And, you know, back in the day, I used to enjoy, you know, of course, the Killer Bees, along with all the other guys that you've mentioned. And of course, you know, Road Warriors and, you know, down south, you know, Midnight Express, Rock and Roll Express. But Rockers, but
right.
You know, Jack and Jerry Briscoe to go way back. But you know,
yeah, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard,
Arn
you know,
Arn and Ole. I like both combinations. So my point is, man, tag team wrestling is so fun to watch, and it's just an art form. If you have a good tag match on the card, and you've got 2 over tag teams, I mean, it's hard to steal the show from those guys if they're on and they want to work, just because of that the dynamics of the things you can do with the referee. Do you still watch wrestling today?
I still watch it, and sometimes, you know, I watch it periodically, you know what I mean?
But don't you miss
it if I know somebody on it.
Don't you miss
it's a lost art. There's no really, it seems like they don't really care about tag team wrestling. They just put this guy with this guy, and, you know, they'll be a team.
They make a dumb name up for them, and it's usually a piss poor name. They just have 2 guys, and they'll work together as a tag match as a tag team for, you know, a couple of weeks, couple of months, and then split them up, go their separate ways. But I miss the days back when, you know, like the Hart Foundation, back when those guys were a tag team. Man, I dug it. You guys, y'all were a tag team. And they'd split you guys up every now and then and work a single, but I like you guys as a tag team.
Right.
And
right. And you know what? Very, very, very rarely, though, did they split us up too much. I mean, we would get split up when we were ready to go to a big, like, SummerSlam or something, and then they would put us with one of the, you know, like, I would wrestle Hawk or Sang would wrestle Bret Hart, or, you know what I mean?
Right.
And it would build to the match that was going to be the tag team match.
Part of the storyline, yeah.
Right, exactly. But it's a dying art right now, and like you said, all of that together made the phenomenal of the show. I mean, all of the different characters together. You know, and nowadays you see a lot of just everybody's dressed the same. I mean, they're getting into more of the costumes and stuff again, but mostly everybody has this, you know, the short shorts, a great body, and a lot of tattoos. You know.
Yeah, you know, I could go crazy on that. Sometimes it frustrates me. Let's talk about one of the maneuvers, if you want to call it a maneuver, you guys used in the ring. It was the infamous pit stop. And to my fans that listen to the show, the pit stop was when one of the Nasty Boys would raise their arm up, exposing their armpit, while the other Nasty Boy would seize the victim by the back of the neck and rub his face into the other Nasty Boy's armpit. So that would not be a great environment to be in, because you know how it is. You know, Brian, you get on the road and you start traveling, and you guys were really on the road for some serious days there, and your ring gear starts smelling like shit, and you try to wash it every couple of days in the sink and just let it dry. but and you always try to stay clean, but certainly you guys had to rib some people with that and not wear deodorant or do stuff like that. And was there ever, first of all, did you ever do that on purpose?
Yeah, we definitely did, especially for people that we didn't really, if we didn't, the person that we were wrestling was a kind of a doofus or an idiot, we definitely would make sure we were stinking pretty good when we did that maneuver, And believe it or not, a guy who helped us out with that maneuver, back, if you call it a maneuver, was Adrian Adonis back in '88. Yeah, when he was in AWA, when we went back to AWA, he was one of the guys going, "You guys call yourselves the nasty boys, and you don't do nothing. What stuff really nasty are you doing?" And he kind of mentioned about doing it, and we inside perfected it, but he was one of the guys that told us about doing it.
Man,
and he was a legend. I mean, please.
Hey, man, let's talk about Adrian Adonis for a second. I love that guy. From his early days, I liked him. He got a little heavy towards the end, but I love that guy's ring work. I loved his psychology, and when it came time for him to get the heat, he just switched gears, and he was mean and nasty, and he had that mean streak, and he could be a real piece of shit. Of course, that matchup. And was it one of the WrestleManias against him and Piper, which was so classic. But he was just a great. I loved his work.
And he had this great psychology, and it was just like the old school, like Piper was, another good friend of ours. He just they were good friends. So whenever any good friends get in the ring together, you're going to have a good match, especially when both of them knew their characters. And, how they were. So, your character back in the day was an extension of really you. I mean, right. Just like you finally got Stone Cold and, you told that story about how you got it and your ex, kind of mentioned it to you and then you went from there. But, it's an extension of you. And I don't know about not nowadays, and I'm not cutting it down because I love pro wrestling, but when you have writers writing and giving you that character, it's harder because back in the day, every character that was out there was an extension of that guy, like Jake the Snake or Rick Martel, the model, or, you know what I mean? You could go down the list, and every guy that was, whatever their name was an extension of that person, Even The Undertaker, I mean, let's face it, Mark was had a little dark side to him there, so, it worked.
And it's all that feeling out process, and so that if some young cat in the business is listening to Brian and myself talk right now, man, you can start off as something, but you can go through a period of trial and error and experimentation. Don't be afraid to try different things. Don't be afraid to trust your gut instincts or to question management because it's your career, and you can't just say, agree to everything all at the same time. I know the political landscape is very tough these days because it's kind of a monopoly, but, within, good conversation and open, honest conversation with management, express your ideas and yourself so that you can find who and what you are. Because certainly it was a long journey for myself and a little bit of a feeling out process for y'all. And y'all went out with Donna and she made the suggestion and then talking to Adrian and all the pieces came together. Y'all nasty boys, Brian Knobs and Jerry Saggs had a tremendous run together and a lot of fun, but there's also a lot of bumps and bruises along the way. What were some of the injuries you suffered, Brian, in the squared circle?
Well, I tore my shoulder out from max pain, not knowing how to throw me the right way for a suplex, and people thought I broke my back, and I mean that's still, I think it's a Super Brawl, whatever. 95, that was a bad one. And then, I have a knee replacement on my right side. Left side, knee went on my right side now. But, knee injuries and then a couple neck injuries that I didn't hurt it too bad, but I got, thrown the wrong way. It's so weird because when you're young, you just keep on going. Back in the day, we didn't have the trainers back there. There was no trainers in the back of the locker room helping you out like today.
No.
And if you didn't wrestle, you didn't get paid. So you wrestled so many times. I could say we wrestled probably with concussions, you wrestled hurt because if you didn't wrestle, you didn't get paid, and
right.
you had to feed your family, so you just went out there, and there were a lot of locker room doctors back in the day, and you just picked up your shit and went back out there, you know?
This is the Steve Austin Show.
You own or rent your home? Sure you do, and I bet it can be hard work. You know what's easy? Bundling policies with Geico. Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowners or renters insurance along with your auto policy. It's a good thing, too, because you already have so much to do around your home. Go to geico.com, get a quote, and see how much you could save. It's Geico easy. Visit geico.com today. That's geico.com.
I think I've told a story one time before. My neck was bothering me. It was when I was WCW and Harley Race, 8-time world champion. You know Harley.
Yeah.
I'm your kid.
That's a tough SOB right there.
Yeah, Harley laid me on a table and wrapped a towel around my neck and jerked as hard as he could, and I thought he was going to yank my head off my shoulders. And then he put me in a full Nelson, and he jerked up real hard, and I swear to God, lightning bolts shot out of my fingertips, and I thought he was going to paralyze me. And Harley, well, how's that? Is that better? And, I'm about to shit my pants. I think I'm paralyzed. I said, look, Harley, I said, yes, sir. It's a lot better. He goes, you want me to do it one more time? Oh, no, Harley. And I ran the fuck away from Harley Race, who I absolutely love. But, because the boys are out there on the road through the grind, and people want to say, hey, wrestling's fake. Hey, okay, it's predetermined. We know that. It's a work. But, man, when you get out there, and you're picking up 300-pound guys, 6'3", 6'10" guys, and, sometimes you don't always drop them flat, or you don't get dropped flat, and you start getting this whiplash thing, which happens, and all these injuries come into play, and it's just a process of the boys trying to take care of the boys. It's that inner circle, and like you said, guys will try to turn into self-made chiropractors, read books, give adjustments, and it's really that's just the way it was, and now the evolution is, and thank God that this new generation of pro wrestlers in WWE have access to all these doctors, this great medical care, because a lot of guys back in the day could have lasted longer than they did, but that's what we did back in the day. We worked on each other.
For 300 days a year, you're going, and like you said, everybody had their own remedies. The Samoans had their lomi. And every once in a while, Snuka or Haku would take me and it was almost like a deep tissue massage. It would hurt like hell. But, you try everything because we didn't have no trainers in the back. It was, them were the guys helping you. You had your locker room doctors, and you also had your locker room lawyers trying to tell you, how to do this and that.
No, it was such the Stone Ages back then. And, back then when you got your ass smoked and you really were hurt, I mean, you almost felt guilty talking to whoever was running the show, or much less the promoter, and say, man, I don't know, my shoulder's really fucked up. And, of course, they look at you like, oh, this motherfucker's working me. He wants days off. And, you're really hurt, but you almost had a guilt complex trying to get a little time off. And by the same token, you don't want to come off the road because you're not going to get paid. But when you really are hurt, it was hard to ask for time off.
Well, I blew my knee out right before SummerSlam, before you were supposed to drop the belts to the LOD. And Vince and then said, go get it done. So what I did was I went and got it scoped just to clean it up, and so I could make that match. But the thing was, like I said, back in the day, you just went. Right after, WrestleMania, we were over on a London tour, and we went and went over for, I think it was a 10-day run right after WrestleMania. I mean, not WrestleMania, SummerSlam. So we lost the belts to the Warriors, and then we're wrestling them over there. And, I flew all the way over there and everything. It's just 10 days after I just had surgery on my knee. And all of a sudden, my leg blew up like a balloon, and they took me in to emergency room in Birmingham, England, and it looked like, my calf was 8 sizes too big. My whole leg blew up like a balloon below the knee. And they wouldn't let none of the guys come see me. And over there, it's different than over here. They have like just volunteers helping out over there. And so I had one person pushing my cart where I had only one arm, or like he was missing an arm, and it was, I mean, the medical facility was the shits. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I do to deserve this? And then they come over and tell Sag's trying to see me. They wouldn't let none of the guys come see me. And they said, well, he has a blood clot, and if it breaks off, it goes to his heart, he could die. And all of a sudden, you know, they told me that. I'm like, what the hell? What's going on here? You know, where I should have been 10 days this was 10 days after surgery. I went and did the match after, you know, the SummerSlam match. I should have just said, hey, I need to take some time off, but you weren't sick like that. No, man, I got to go, and, you know, they got another tour booked. We're going. And, you know, I thank God nothing happened. I stayed in the hospital for like a day or two, and then you joined back up with the crew like 2 days later, and then they said, you don't have to wrestle, Bob, you don't have to wrestle, and I still went out and did my thing, but I was more on the apron because we were a tag team, you could do that, but I still went out.
Hey, man, you told me a funny story. Would you tell a story about how you almost got run over by your wife at the gas station?
Well, I actually did.
What was the deal?
And that was in one year. I got stabbed in Peoria.
Okay, why did you get stabbed in Peoria?
Well, after the match, a bunch of frowny fans, because it was me, Sag, and Mike Rotundo, and his car came up and was trying to drive us off the road, and all of a sudden they pulled in front of us and put on the brakes, so I got out first. This guy jumps out of the front. He starts throwing punches, and I'm blocking him, and I grab the guy, and I start punching him in the face, and now he falls down, and all of a sudden I just feel this rush of liquid coming down my head, and here it's blood, and I yell, Sag, he has a knife, and here he had a boot knife, and he stabbed me 3 times in the arm and 1 in my stomach, and Sag got the guy, front faced him, and just buried him right in the cement there, right there on the street. It's in the middle of the street. And while Sag got that guy, the other guy got out of the car and came like he was the Lone Ranger and lassoed Sag over the head with a pair of jumper cables, and Sag had scissors on the side of his head. Mike Rotundo, the big shooter, our good buddy Mike, was out there, and somebody got at him in the eye. I was like, where are all these wrestling skills, Mike? So anyway, with the fight's over, we got these guys laid out, and I said, man, I got to go to a hospital. So I kept my arm up over my head, and while we were going to the hospital, Mike's flying like a bat out of hell to get to the hospital. And here we go, we get in, and they rush me in, and I'm in the emergency room, and Sag follows me in. And here they get me, in the operating room, but the room where they're going to work on me and see how bad I am. I had like a Oakland Raiders, like big sweatshirt on. It was in Peoria, Illinois at the time, and it was freezing. So when they pulled it up, I had my arm up there, for almost 10, 15 minutes, and all the blood ran down and accumulated, underneath the sweatshirt.
Yeah.
So when they picked up the sweatshirt, all the big splatters of blood hit the floor, and it went boom, 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 and just blood went everywhere. And Sag went, oh my God, his liver. And I just went, ugh, and passed right out there. And they said, get him out of there, pick it up, please. So, I mean, what a deal, what an ordeal,
So where did you end up getting stabbed?
I got stabbed 2 times in the forearm because I had the guy in a headlock when I was punching him, 1 time in the tricep and 1 time in the lower stomach.
But the blade didn't hit anything vital?
No, thank God I'm fat.
Okay,
that's what they said. They said, thank God you got some protection down there. So he stabbed me in the right spot, my fat stomach,
So when
God.
Jerry gets roped with the jumper cables, I mean, these guys are pulling out all the stops. So who ended up technically winning the fight if there was a winner?
Well, we did. We left them laying there.
Okay.
They were laid out on the street, but instead of us because we were in the middle of nowhere there, we were trying to go to a hotel. but it wasn't in like downtown Peoria. It was on our way, like, we always stay out by the airports, and,
Right.
and sometimes when you're out there by the airports, there's not really nowhere, there's nothing out there. And by that time, this is 1992, so there was nothing out by the airport. So when it happened, we let them guys lay in there because we didn't really give a shit about them. We were more worried about getting me to the hospital and see how bad I was, because I know I got jabbed a couple times,
So how much work did you miss with your injuries?
You know what? I don't think I missed too much. Probably, I would think maybe about a couple weeks, and I was back out there again.
Okay, so you got stabbed in Peoria. It was a tough year. Then what happened?
Oh, well, that happened, and then, right before Survivor Series, we were going to go against Ultimate Warrior and Macho Man. I guess they wouldn't put us there, go through that, and I'm at a gas station. I got out, I pulled up too far, and I got out and left the door open, and...
What kind of car were you driving?
I had a Cadillac, a Fleetwood. One
Cadillac,
nice,
Fleetwood.
Cadillac,
Fleetwood, living large, pull up to a
living large, doing it. So I left the door open, but I pulled too far, and I couldn't.
Hose wouldn't reach.
The hose wouldn't reach the gas tank. So I told Tony, my wife, I said, "Hey, hon, can you pull it back a little bit?" So she got to the middle of the seat and didn't go all the way to the driver's seat. She just scooted over, and she put it, forward first. She put on the brake, and when she put it in reverse, the car was idling a little bit back, so it started coming back right away. She hit the brake with her left foot, and it slipped off and hit the gas, and I got hit with the door, and the car went all the way back, and it hit me right in the, thank God it hit me on the above, but the point of the door hit me in the right shoulder and in the bottom of my leg, the 2 points.
Yep.
And thank God, because all the arteries are underneath, because I would have been dead on the spot, but it flipped me around, and they helicoptered me to the hospital and all that stuff.
So what happens? Okay, the door's open, your wife slips off the brake pedal, it hits the gas, the two edges, the top and bottom of the door, pin you up against the pump, spin you around. It didn't spin me. It hit me, and the car kept going, and I took a little whirly twirl, and I was laying there. Okay, so you whirly twirl, you're laying at the gas pump. Are you bleeding like a stuck pig?
Oh, bleeding like a son of a bitch. One guy, actually, I ran into him later. He was like a paramedic that was just happened to be there, and they called the ambulance. They got the helicopter, took me to the hospital, and then I got to call Vince, and he said, "Hey, Vince, I'm sorry to tell you, but Niles got ran over yesterday or last night by his wife," and he goes, "What else can happen to that poor bastard?" Because all this stuff happened in 1 year span.
So how are you feeling these days getting out of bed? Easy to get out of bed sometimes, harder a little bit other times?
Hell no. These younger kids never saw the movie, but
North Dallas
40 with Nick Nolte when he was a football player there, and it's a movie about he was a football player and how he was. Well, that's how I feel getting out of bed in the morning. You get out of bed and you get up in like shifts. You got to stretch this way, stretch that way. Hear this crap, hear that crap. So.
But did you see the writing on the wall midway through your career, or did you ever see a guy that had been out of the ring for 10 or 15 years and see how they were walking or ask how they felt? Did you know what you were heading to?
Not really. I must say I really didn't. I mean, I kind of knew it was going to be like that later on. But, back in the day, you really didn't think about that. You just went on, and I wouldn't even change anything today. I mean, hell, it is what it is, and it's called pro wrestling for a reason. That's why, we get so mad when people say it's fake, because, hey, it may be predetermined, like you said.
There's a lot of blood,
but
sweat, tears.
Let me show you on a everybody thinks the ring is so soft too. I mean, hey, it hurts. It's pro wrestling. You know what I mean? So
I could tell anybody, I say, get on the road. Well, not with me now, but back in the day, get on the road with us and just go for 30 days straight and see what you think after that. But then you string, some 300-day years out of that and do that for 10, 15, 20 years, or in some cases 40, as some of our coworkers have made it. And it adds up. It's like interest. It compounds daily. I feel pretty decent myself. Recently, Brian, we lost one of our brothers. Mad Dog Vachon passed away at 84 years of age.
I know.
Did you ever cross paths with Mad Dog?
I have. I've met him. I met him like once or twice because he was an AWA guy for a while, and him and Vern, and he came through every now and again, and not to wrestle, just to say hello, or if we were in in Canada at the time. But I did meet him. I think 2 or 3 times, and what a nice guy he was, man. It was really sad to hear that he passed away. You know what I mean?
Here's the thing, Brian and I. Every time another one of the boys passes away, Brian and I have a tradition of he'll either call me or I'll call him, and we'll shoot the breeze about one of our buddies and tell a couple of good stories and have a few laughs over the tragedy. As
right.
This was Mad Dog was 84. He didn't OD. He didn't do anything stupid. He lived a long life, and he had a tremendous career. Was very influential to a lot of guys. And the few times that I got a chance to talk to the guy, he was just an absolute sweetheart. And so anyway, he's gone. But so you're doing well now. You beat to shreds. Are you still? You were training people for a while. Are you still training people? Are you out on the independent circuit? How can people reach you for bookings or appearances?
Well, you can go to my Facebook, Brian Knobs. I'm not sure if it's any slash in there or not, but go up to my Facebook, Brian Knobs. And right now, I'm not doing the school no more. I did a Canada State for 4 years. And the guy who won Tough Enough, Andy Levine, was my student. I got a couple of guys that are working now with TNA. And, Jesse Sorensen was one, but he just got his neck hurt, so he's out. Garrett Bischoff, Eric's kid. Eric wanted to put him through a good school, so he put him through my school, and the kid's doing pretty good. He busted his butt, and some guys got to WWE like that Andy Levine did. He won the Tough Enough contest, and that made me happy because he was with me for about 4 months. But it's hard training guys now to say where you're going to go. There's nowhere for anybody to wrestle. It's not like it used to be.
Let me take you back to your AWA days when you were getting your start, because when I first got on the road in the USWA in Nashville, I was living in a shitbox motel. The people let me pay the rent whenever I had the money. They knew I was good for it. I was an honest cat. They were super nice people. I was making $15 or $20 per night, and most of the trips were anywhere between 200 and 420 miles round trip. Your early days there in the AWA with Jerry, what kind of payoffs were you guys making back in?
We were making a little bit better than that, but then when we went to from we started there, we were making like if we were resting, they would give us about $1.50, which was great. But then when we left there, we got fired from there twice. And then the one time we went down to Tennessee, and then that was Evansville was always $25. Louisville could be 50 or 40, and then the second time we got fired, we came down here to Florida to Steve Kern and Mike Graham. God bless Mike, so he's not here no more either. But my wife, she came to one of our matches, and then at the end of the night, I went, we were at Florida Tag Team Champions. I went, here you go, hon. She says, what's that? I said, that's my payoff. It was in an envelope. It was $30. And then we proceeded to go after the matches to McDenton's, and I blew about 85 on drinks. So, go figure. But yeah, definitely, the bigger places like AWA, paid you some money, but when you went to the little territories, it definitely was $20, 15, 30. You know what I mean? And I don't know if you ever wrestled for Mid-South, but, Evansville, Indiana was every Wednesday. And
we got paid. Payday.
Yeah, it was a payday, but it was, I think it was the highest we ever got paid there was $50, but it was usually a $25 or $30 night,
Hey man, it's been good talk, and you were telling some rib stories just a while ago. Do you have another rib story or just travel story or anything to end up this conversation?
Another reality show might be it's right up here of Alley, actually. It's called Redneck Rivals. You can go to redneckrivalstv.com, and I'm going to be involved with that. But it's two families, like the Hatfield and McCoys, and my good buddy Fred Young. You met him. He came over to your house that time. We barbecued.
Yep.
I don't know if you remember that. First we met at Barney's Beanery with my wife, and he came out with me, and we had a couple beers there, and then we went over to your house one night when we were in L.A., and you barbecued, and man, the food was good, but the drinks were better. I had one hell of a hangover that night, but I'm doing something there, so hopefully people can see my big, fat, ugly face this coming year. Probably one of the networks, one of these local stations. It looks like it's going to get picked up, but I'm not going to say where yet because I don't want to jinx it. But I'm going to be involved in that. I'm going to be doing a bunch of stuff, and it's really a good concept. And it's these two families that really don't like each other, and they're two crazy families, and it's like the reunion of the Hatfield and McCoys again. It really is. So if anybody wants to check it out, like I said, it's called Redneck Rivals TV.com, and Fred, called me up and asked me if I wanted to participate in it, and he's been a friend of mine for a while, so I'm doing everything, bro, to stay, me and you, we're always doing something, so that's my one big project this coming year, so hopefully that'll get picked up and you'll be seeing me on the air again.
Well, that'll be a damn good thing. Hey, so you can check Brian Knobs out on Facebook. It's Facebook/Brian Knobs, whatever the hell it is. Just Google Brian Knobs on Facebook. You'll find his ass for bookings, appearances, or whatnot. Brian, I'm always fun to talk to you. We stay in contact on the phone all the time anyway. Glad to hear your voice. Thank you for stopping by the Steve Austin Show. I appreciate you.
Hey, it's a pleasure. It's a really pleasure of you having me on, bro. You're a great friend of mine for years. You're one of my true friends. And like in this business, you got a couple of them that you can really trust, and you're one of them. And you want to hear a good rib. An early one, we got blamed for it. And I don't know, I was taught way back in the day, never admit a rib, but Raven, at the time he was going to Scotty the Body, we were in Florida Championship Wrestling, and, he had his way doing his thing, and somebody took a leak in one of his shoes, and then there was a big pile of poop in the other one, you know what I mean? So it was, and I'm not saying it was us, but we got blamed.
Well, such is life on the road. And the entertainment or the things that these guys will go through to entertain ourselves on the road for a prank, whether it's a loving gesture or a fuck you gesture, nonetheless, it is a rib. Hey, so let's wrap this thing up. Brian Knobs on Facebook. I'm Steve Austin BSR on Twitter. And I'm going to come back after I take a pause for the cause, have a word from our sponsors, and wrap up my conversation and send you guys down the road. It's Thanksgiving time, Brian. Tell these motherfuckers happy Thanksgiving before you haul ass.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to all of you. Stay nasty, brothers. Have some good turkey and some stuffing like I'm going to do, and feed your face, and then have a beer on me, baby.
Take care, Brian.
This has been a Podcast One production. Download new episodes of The Steve Austin Show every Tuesday at PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.